Glad you could make it a date with us on Earthfile. I am Ayola Kasim. $10 million is the amount approved as the takeoff grant for the implementation of the United Nations Environment Program assessment on Ogoni land. The UNEP's scientific study released in 2011 exposed a large-scale continued contamination of the water and soil in Ogoni land. And the serious threat they pose to human health is our focus today on the program. Thanks for joining us. Covering around 1,000 square kilometers in River State, southern Nigeria, Ogoni land is situated in the Niger-Delta region, the third largest mangrove ecosystem in the world. The 2006 national census show that there are about 832,000 people in Ogoni land. The people here are predominantly farmers and fishermen. Ogoni land has been the site of oil industry operations since the late 1950s and has a tragic history of pollution from oil spills and oil well fires. In November 2009, the United Nations Environment Program's environmental assessment of Ogoni land was launched in Bori. This assessment, alongside options for remediation, was conducted at the request of the federal government. The independent scientific assessment shows that pollution from over 50 years of oil operations in the region has penetrated further and deeper than many may have supposed. Experts believe the assessment has been unprecedented. Over a 14-month period, the UNEP team examined more than 200 locations, surveyed 122 kilometers of pipeline rights-of-way, reviewed more than 5,000 medical records, and engaged over 23,000 people at local community meetings. Detailed soil and groundwater contamination investigations were conducted at 69 sites, which ranged in size from 1,300 square meters to 79 hectares. Altogether, more than 4,000 samples were analyzed, including water taken from 142 groundwater monitoring wells, drilled specifically for the study, and soil extracted from 780 boreholes. Some areas which appear unaffected at the surface are in reality severely contaminated on the ground, and action to protect human health and reduce the risks to affected communities should occur without delay, says UNEP's environmental assessment of the land. In at least 10 Ogoni communities where drinking water is contaminated with high levels of hydrocarbons, public health is seriously threatened. In one community at Nisisioken Ogali in western Ogoni land, families are drinking water from wells that is contaminated with benzene, a known carcinogen at levels over 900 times above World Health Organization guidelines. UNEP scientists found an 8-centimeter layer of refined oil floating on the groundwater which serves the wells. This was reportedly linked to an oil spill which occurred more than 6 years before the launch of the assessment. Overall, the report estimates that countering and cleaning up the pollution and catalyzing a sustainable recovery of Ogoni land could take 25 to 30 years. First week in August 2011, the chairman of the United Nations Environment Program team presented its findings to President Jonathan in Abuja. Therein, it states that the control and maintenance of oil field infrastructure in Ogoni land has been and remains inadequate. The Shell Petroleum Development Company's own procedures have not been applied, creating public health and safety issues. The impact of oil on mangrove vegetation has been disastrous. Oil pollution in many intertidal creeks has left mangrove nurseries for fish and natural pollution filters, denuded of leaves and stems with roots coated in a layer of bitumen-type substance, sometimes 1 centimeter or more thick. The 5 highest concentrations of total petroleum hydrocarbons detected in groundwater exceed 1 million micrograms per liter. This was compared to the Nigerian standard for groundwater, which is 600 micrograms per liter. When an oil spill occurs on land, fibers often break out, killing vegetation and creating a crust over the land, making remediation or revegetation difficult. At some sites, a crust of ash and tar has been in place for several decades. The surface water throughout the creeks in and surrounding Ogoni land contain hydrocarbons. Floating layers of oil vary from thick black oil to thin sheens. Despite community concerns, the results show that fish consumption in Ogoni land, either of those caught locally or purchased from markets, was not posing a health risk. The report says that fish tend to leave polluted areas in search of cleaner water. However, the fisheries sector is suffering due to the destruction of fish habitat and highly persistent contamination of many creeks. Where entrepreneurs have established fish farms, for example, their businesses have been ruined by an ever-present layer of floating oil. The Ogoni community is exposed to hydrocarbons every day through multiple routes. While the impact of individual contaminated land sites tends to be localized, air pollution related to oil industry operations is all-pervasive and affecting the quality of life of close to 1 million people. Artisanal refining, a practice whereby crude oil illegally obtained from oil industry operations is refined in primitive stills, is endangering lives and ultimately causing pockets of environmental devastation in Ogoni land and neighboring areas. The remote sensing revealed that in Bodo West in Bonin local government area, an increase in artisanal refining between 2007 and 2011 has been accompanied by a 10% loss of healthy mangrove cover, or over 307,000 square meters.